All right, well, you live and you learn. I put out a video a couple of days ago, Anthony Joshua to come, and I talked about how I think he's going to knock him out quick. Probably won't go past the halfway point, and what did it go, 10 rounds, I believe. But here's the thing. I think maybe, look here, I'm more than happy to admit when I'm wrong, but I think I partly got that wrong. I think I had a little bit too much faith in Anthony Joshua. Maybe I thought he was a little better than he actually is, or maybe I underestimated Takam. Could be. I think it's a little bit of both. I think, look, Takam, he reminds me of like a Ruslan Provodnikov, or I don't know, man. Maybe like a prime Brandon Rios, something like that, or Angulo, just a tough, rugged dude that can take a lot of punishment. But, you've got Anthony Joshua basically gassing out. And, I've always had a huge problem with the bulk. I always say it's boxing, not a weightlifting contest. So that's one thing with Anthony Joshua that I've always had an issue with. But I wanted to kind of talk about that for a minute. And I learned something about Anthony Joshua. I think he's not as good as I thought. Look at the resume, 19-0, right? And by the way, I'm sorry, 20-0. We're going to read a few comments, what the general public thinks as well. Okay, so I'm not just going to give you my own thoughts. I'm gonna read some comments, and we'll go over this picture here in a minute too. But 19-0, Takam, Klitschko, Molina, Brazili, Chris Martin, Dillian White, Cornish, Joshua, not a bad resume, not a bad resume at all. I was looking at that, and you can compare it to, other top heavyweights, right? Like even look at a Lennox Lewis, okay? Canadian, his nationality, Canadian and from the UK. Also TKO Klitschko, Mike Tyson, lost to Hasim Rahman, I have a hard time with that, Rahman, and then came back, avenged that loss, that kind of thing. Fought Evander Holyfield twice. I believe the first one was a draw, and I think the second one was a unanimous decision win. But my point is, I was looking at AJ's resume, and then I was going and looking at like Tyson's or even a Holyfield, and right now at 20 fights, I guess he's where he should be, right? Maybe still a little bit green. But is he overrated? I think, look, the people in the UK, they love him to death. And I think a lot of his ranking, I guess, and his, the hype behind him is because he's dearly loved, right? He's the new UK star, which, by the way, I didn't even know that there was like this ongoing, battle between UK boxers and American boxers, like between the fans, because a lot of people are telling me, oh, you're pissed off that, we got a UK heavyweight champ, that kind of thing. But I'm really not. I mean, I don't honestly care. To me, I always say boxing is a global sport, and it really doesn't matter to me. If we, of course, I guess I would like to have an American champion, but, at the end of the day, I really don't care. But I'm getting off track here. But look at Tyson right here, just quickly. Knocked out by Holyfield, knocked out by Buster Douglas, knocked out by Lennox Lewis. Okay, beat a 38-year-old Holmes. Okay, beat a light heavyweight Spinks. And this is like the criticism for Tyson, and there's criticism everywhere you go. I mean, you can take any champion, any boxer, and there's criticism, but with AJ, I think the criticism is really it's a weak division, number one, so the talent pool isn't really there. I mean, who's out there? Deontay Wilder, Ortiz, Parker, Paulette pulled out, Ruiz, and like I mentioned before, what about a Baby Miller, a Gerald Miller, maybe something like that next, I don't know. But now, by the way, we've got Tyson Fury, talking about making a comeback. Well, not talking about it, actually doing it. Hang on, I'll show you guys the statement he put out. But as far as, him being hyped, yeah, I would call it hyped, but not in the general, speaking way of calling someone a hype job. I don't think he got exposed. I don't think anything like that happened. I just think that the expectations for Anthony Joshua, they're really high. I'm going to show you these pictures here in a minute. They're freaking hilarious. Like here's Eddie Hearn's no refunds people, talking about the Anthony Joshua Takam fight. But so, here's Tyson's Halloween costume. Awesome. Clubber Lane. But, is he a hype job? I don't know. Look, let me read what a few people have to say. And I really agree with this guy here. Okay. So shout out Berto Riviera. Been saying since the Vlad fight, overrated for sure. Some things to note. He's a former Olympic medalist, but but this isn't the amateurs. Not to mention his amateur record isn't as recognized as Rigondeaux, Golovkin, or Lomachenko. Very true. Okay, he's the unified champion, yes, but the sanctioning bodies have yet to make him fight a real threat. Okay, and that's one of the biggest issues I have with Anthony Joshua. But the heavyweight division is pretty weak right now. I mean, you have to admit. I mean, there's like, what, 2 or 3 really big fights that could be made. Maybe one, Deontay Wilder, really. Deontay Wilder, like I call it the clash of the titans. I mean, I want to see Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, and I need something, before I can, put my stamp on it and say, yeah, he's a heavyweight great. I need to see a Deontay Wilder type fight. I mean, sorry, but Takam, a 41-year-old Klitschko, Molina, it's not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. And if you're a real boxing fan and not a fan of the UK, you should agree with that. Right here, his division is weak. Much like the light welterweight division, there are not a lot of threats in that division. If Crawford had a small promotion company instead of Arum, guaranteed he'd still have trouble trying to unify the 140 division. And look, I know I'm reading this from this other guy, but I've talked about this over and over and over about Terrence Crawford. I even said, a lot of it is the division, the competition. Look, I mean, Crawford, he's on another level. These other guys are like he does unify, but we all knew he was going to win. Or not only did he, became the undisputed light welterweight champion of the world, and we all knew he was going to win. We knew it, so the division is weak, okay? Right here, likewise, Joshua wouldn't have unified in the same scenario. Not to say he's not talented, but he had issues with an old Klitschko, right? He got knocked down by an old-ass Klitschko, basically gassed out against Takam. I know his nose was broken, all that, and he had breathing trouble, but whatever, it happens. It's a heavyweight division. It happens. You get over it, and you push forward. I mean, you can't blame a broken nose. Go back and how many fights have boxers had a broken nose? I mean, come on, shit, I've had my nose broken. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is, but it's not enough to turn you into a D-level fighter, He's good, but not great. I'd compare him to the Canelo Alvarez of the UK. He's got his country behind him, but he's not faced a threat and looked incredible. Differences, however, that it's not Joshua's fault. The heavyweight division lacks competition. Like I said, completely agree. Just real quick, Wilder needs to fight Joshua. We need a real fight. So this is like what the general public, what they think, and I agree. This guy says, yeah, he is overrated. No, not overrated. Here we go. Been saying since the Vladimir Klitschko fight. Just a few little comments there, what people think. Related about I think he's probably overrated. Difficult really to say though. Need to let his career unfold to find out. I'd still say the best of a bad bunch, and that's exactly what I'm trying to say to you people. Is I don't know if he's overrated. That's why I keep just saying I don't know, because I mean, how do we know? With 20 fights, how do you know, right? I think he's got a lot to prove, but right here, we need to see this. We need to see a Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua fight. And then, right there, that'll eliminate. And probably, what about maybe a rematch, a trilogy, right? This is what we need to see in the heavyweight division, because right now, it's up in the air. And anyone who out there, if you claim Anthony Joshua is the best, I mean, how can you make that claim, right? I mean, comparatively speaking, you look at all their resumes, and none of their resumes are all that great. You look at all the top heavyweights right now, and they're just not that great. Now, Deontay Wilder, You know, one thing that I do respect about him, you know, he was willing to go fight Povetkin right here. Okay, let's read this real quick. When Deontay Wilder signed to fight them, right? Here, remember Spilka, right? Is it Spilka? Anyway, he trains right here in Houston, right by my house. So I like him. Cool dude. Stavern, which, you know, we got that coming up. Undefeated ranked Washington, okay? Molina. Victor or Luis Ortiz, which, you know, he just had the PED situation. Same thing with Povetkin. Now, whether or not he was guilty or innocent, don't know, don't care. It didn't happen, right? You know, Duhaupas right there, Harrison, and this dude here, I believe this was the Polish guy right here. That W, how do you say it? WAWRZYK. That was a Polish dude. I think he popped dirty for steroids too. So, you know, you look at this and it's like, yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, if I had to compare the two resumes, I would say they're about the same. You know, I know this isn't Deontay Wilder's resume, but these are the fights that he tried to sign or the fights that he's already had. So, you know, it's just a weak-ass division, bottom line. Right here, Gypsy King, you know, Tyson Fury talking about coming out. This is what's to come, the old champ coming back to fight. You know, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically he was approved right here, thanks to the BBBOC for giving the green light to box again in 2018. British Boxing Board of Control give former heavyweight champion Tyson Fury the green light to return to boxing. So, you know, he put out a video and, you know, he's definitely coming back. But I don't know. He said it before and nothing happened. So, don't know. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, look at a Tyson. Like I said, let's look at a Tyson. 1985 to 2005. Undisputed heavyweight champ. Actually the youngest heavyweight champ at 20 years old. He had the WBs from Berbick, the WBA, I believe, and the IBF from James and Smith. Okay. Oh, and Tony Tucker in 1987, I think 1980 something, right? So Tyson, you know, you look at that and I think, like, you know, what would a prime Tyson do to a Takam, right? What would a prime Muhammad Ali? Shit, let's go there. I mean, we might as well, right? What would an Ali do to a Takam? You know, or even a Holyfield, or you know, take a Deontay Wilder, someone current. You know, when I look at that, I don't know. I mean, I look at his last fight with Klitschko. You know, it was a great fight. I mean, I think probably one of the best heavyweight fights we've had in a long time. But, you know, I mean, he puts on a good show. I'll give him that. But, you know, looking at just, you know, from a boxing point of view, I don't know if I can call him one of the greats yet. And I don't know if I can say, oh, yeah, you know, he can beat everybody. Like, you can look at a Lomachenko and tell that he can dominate that division, right? You know, you can look at maybe a Spence or a Keith Thurman and say, yeah, I think he can dominate the welterweight division. You can look at a Gennady Golovkin and say, yeah, I think he can dominate. But can you look at Anthony Joshua and say, yeah, I think he'll dominate the head? No, you can't. If you can't, maybe you can, but I can't. I certainly can't. So I don't know, again, I'm not going to babble, guys. Well, what do you think? Is he overrated? You know, I think the answer is yes and no.